My name is Sally Turner. I've been divorced for 3 years now, having parted ways with my ex-husband, John. During our marriage, there were many tough times, and the divorce was pretty one-sided. I'd love to erase such a past completely, like rubbing it out with an eraser. But, it seems human memory isn't so easily erased. That's why I hoped never to see him again. However, wishes like that seem to get betrayed quite often. For instance, I unexpectedly bumped into him recently at a local movie theater. Standing beside him was his young new wife, and the child he fathered after our divorce, holding John's hand. Why did I have to run into them? Of all the theaters in town, we had to choose the same one. What bad luck! It made me want to curse my fate. I just hoped he wouldn't notice me. Or at least not come over to talk. Pretending not to notice, I was suddenly approached by John, who looked at me mockingly, just like old times. Can't believe I'm running into you here. What are you watching, a romance? No luck with men, so you come to find satisfaction in movies? Poor thing. I'm here because my kid really wanted to see this film. We came as a family. Movies are best watched with family, right? Must be lonely alone, huh? Oh, really? I replied casually, not wanting to engage, but John didn't let me leave. What's the rush? Let's catch up. By the way, my wife is expecting again. Quite a contrast to an infertile woman, huh? Look at her belly, impressive, right? Surely a healthy baby will be born. Well, that's nice for you. Congratulations. John's wife looked far into her pregnancy. The first child was conceived while he was still married to me. He suddenly brought home a young woman, announcing she was pregnant and he wanted a divorce. I never thought he would do something like that, and I was left speechless by this turn of events. Our relationship began when we were working at the same company. We ended up sitting together at a drinking party and got carried away with silly conversations fueled by alcohol. I enjoyed those moments, and soon we were going out for meals and drinks. He quickly took up residence in my heart. Before I knew it, I was convinced he was my soulmate and decided to marry him. He was so kind in the early days of our marriage, and life was incredibly sweet. We both loved kids and talked about starting a family soon. How many kids do you want? 9, maybe. Though it was unrealistic, I laughed and indulged in those pleasant dreams. A life surrounded by many children. But a year passed, then 2, and no children came. In our 3rd year, we started fertility treatments, but still no sign of a child. I often went to the hospital alone, though most couples came together. Tests showed there was nothing wrong with me. That meant the issue might have been with John. Thinking this, I asked him to get tested. But his reaction was terrible. Why do I have to get tested? Are you saying there's something wrong with me? It's always the woman's issue, right? If you were capable of having kids, there wouldn't be a problem. We had started the fertility treatment journey saying we'd get through it together, but as 2, then 3 years passed without results, John grew colder and eventually stopped even trying to have a child with me. Yet he insisted I was the problem. There's no way we could have a child in such a situation. I can't count how many times I swallowed those words. But I desperately wanted a child. Probably having a child would bring the old John back. I believed so. But his heart only grew colder and harder with time. Your body is a piece of junk. Can't have kids? That's a defect. Marrying you was a mistake. I'm truly miserable. He began to mock me like this, and eventually, we stopped talking altogether. I sensed the end of our relationship was near. I probably knew deep down that I was no longer in his heart. Yet, I still wanted to have a child. So, I made a last-ditch effort and said to John, "The doctor said you should get tested too. Will you come with me next time?" This was my last chance. If this didn't work, I'd give up. That's what I thought when I said it. But his response was the same as always. Why should I get tested when you're the defective one? Don't be ridiculous. And then he brought his pregnant mistress. She's pregnant, so I'm divorcing you. Sign the divorce papers. I had tried so hard. He had expelled me from his heart and made room for this woman. Realizing this, I understood it was over. Fine, we'll divorce. But just this once, get a fertility test. Why should I? Her being pregnant means there's nothing wrong with me. No need for that. If you get tested, I won't ask for alimony. Alimony? For what? You cheated, so I could ask for alimony. John muttered a small ah. He probably hadn't expected me to say that. But hearing this, he agreed to the test, though he said it was pointless, just to avoid paying alimony. Despite such a painful separation, somehow, I managed to get back on my feet. You couldn't have kids when you were with me. It's crazy that we tried so hard and it never happened. Where did he get the idea he tried hard? I thought I was the one who tried hard. Towards the end, I just didn't find you attractive anymore. I didn't feel like doing it. But I thought it would be cruel to tell you the truth, so I kept quiet. I'm such a gentleman, aren't I? You lost interest because you were having an affair, right? If you get cheated on, it means you lacked charm. But this woman here, she's always attractive, no matter how much time passes. Oh, that's nice for you. I've really come to realize how good it was to leave you. Glancing at his new partner, she seemed disinterested. Her eyes looked lifeless. I wonder what John thinks about her expression. You're a defective product. I can't believe I put up with a woman who couldn't even have children. I wanted kids. It's impossible that the problem was with me. Is that so? Of course. The fact that she's pregnant with our second child proves it. I'm always spot on. You kept saying I should get tested, but in the end, there were no issues, right? If there were, you would have contacted me saying, I was wrong, it was your fault. The fact that you didn't means you realized the problem was with you. What a pitiful person. John was laughing loudly. It made everyone around us look at me with pity. You wouldn't understand, but having a child is great. They're so cute. I never knew they could be this adorable. I always wanted them, but I only realized it after becoming a parent. Children are like angels. That's great for you. You probably want them too, but with your body, that's impossible. How about adopting? It doesn't have to be your own flesh and blood, right? You might grow to love them eventually. Aren't you going to watch a movie? We've already finished watching. Are you about to go? Yes, so I'll be leaving now. Enjoy your imaginary romance. You probably won't be able to marry anyone anyway. As I started to walk away from John, I stopped, irritated, and approached him to whisper in his ear. You really know nothing. What do you mean? I smiled slyly. What's that supposed to mean? Remember, at the end, you got tested for infertility. Yeah, so? Since you never said anything. I didn't say anything because I pitied you. The truth is, the one without the seeds was you. Lies. I have 2 children. I'm not lying. Why don't you take a DNA test? Then you'll know the truth. Ever heard of cuckooing? Lies. John's face went pale. His eyes widening in shock, his lips trembling. He must have had a hunch, but was desperately denying it. Poor guy. Walking away from John, I smirked and said, well then, goodbye, unhappy John. I thought that would definitely upset him. I had hoped that if I could just get back at him this much, it would be enough for me. I thought it wasn't my place to intervene anymore, whether John ended up unhappy, whether the child he believed to be his wasn't actually his, or whatever he chose to believe. So, I thought that was the end of it. But then, after a while, John contacted me. His voice sounded exhausted, like he was walking through the depths of despair. Well, long time no see. How are things with your wife? We got divorced. Oh, really? What do you want? I just wanted to tell you something. I don't need any updates from you. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. No, I needed to tell you the truth. Why? We're strangers now, aren't we? I got a DNA test done after that. I guess you're ignoring what I said. Turns out, the kid isn't mine. Oh, I knew that, but that's unfortunate for you. Not my kid, can you believe that? Well, legally, it's still your child, isn't it? Legal or not, it's not my kid. I can't help you with that, can I? I confronted her with the test results. Oh. Instead of crying or apologizing, she just bluntly said the kid isn't mine. Really? When I asked what she meant, she said she was seeing someone else at the time. When she got pregnant and told the other guy, he bailed. So, she decided to tell me it was mine because I was happy about it, and it's easier to raise a child with two people. That's something. I thought the baby she's carrying now must be mine. But when I asked, she just laughed. Said there's no way it's mine. Despite being intimate almost every night, nothing happened with me. But with a guy she started seeing half a year ago, she got pregnant right away, so the baby is definitely his. So that's why she had that dead look in her eyes. Well, you are infertile, so that makes sense. But wow, that's quite a story. Nothing much I can say to that. No, I did say something. I asked her why she did all this. And what did she say? She said she wasn't happy with our life together. Oh. I even confronted her about having an affair while being married. You should know all about that, having had affairs yourself. No, my affairs were different. I had a legitimate reason, I wanted kids. But she cheated even though she already had a child. That's unforgivable. Either way, it's unforgivable. So, she said life with you was boring, and then what? I guess there's not much you could say after that. Yeah. I couldn't say anything. All I could say was let's get divorced. Oh, so you split up, even though there's a child involved. Yeah, because that child isn't mine. And the one she's carrying isn't mine either. What other choice did I have but to leave? If you do that, she'll have to raise two kids alone. Not really. When I said I wanted a divorce, I thought she'd apologize, but she said it was just perfect. What do you mean? The guy she's currently seeing will become the dad for both kids, she said. Wow, impressive. One man is ready to abandon a child he's raised just because it's not his, while another is willing to take care of two, knowing only one is his. He must be a kind person. Good for her, she might find happiness. I'm the one who's unhappy. Well, you made your bed. She did exactly what you said, cuckooed me. Looks like it. But you were happy until now, right? Well, yes, but... So, you tried to dump her but ended up getting dumped, huh? Dumped? That's right. But it's fair, isn't it? You had another woman and left me, so what goes around comes around. Who would have thought it'd turn out like this? You wouldn't have, I'm sure. So, was that what you wanted to tell me? It's not so much that I wanted to tell you, but I felt I had to. Why? It's none of my business. Even hearing it, I don't feel anything. Maybe, but... Well, tough luck, I guess. Hopefully, you'll meet someone nice next time. Yeah. John seemed to want to say more, but I ended the call. A few days later, John showed up at my house. Unexpectedly, holding a bouquet of roses. What are you doing? He pushed the bouquet at me and said, date me. Excuse me? You're not remarried, right? I mean, you couldn't possibly be. So, I'll marry you. Date me. How rude. I am married. What? Not what. I'm married. That's a lie. How can someone who can't have children get married? What do you mean? I mean, you're infertile. How could an infertile woman get married? What a bias. Why would you want to date me with the intention of marrying, knowing I can't have children? Because we lived together before, and starting a new relationship from scratch is a hassle. What kind of person says that? Besides, I can trust you. But I can't trust you, can I? I'm willing to put up with you being infertile and all. I've been telling you, you're the one who's infertile. There's no way I'm infertile. That doesn't make any sense. Wait here a minute. With that, I went to the back and pulled out the infertility test results John had taken 3 years ago. Good thing I kept these. Here, take a look at these results. How can I believe this? It's 3 years old. Why not? The accuracy of tests from 3 years ago can't be trusted. What's changed in 3 years? I'm not infertile. Then why didn't she conceive your child? It was just a coincidence. Things like that happen. Too many coincidences, don't you think? Just go home, please. But you don't have a child either, right? I can accept you for that. Just then, a child came from the back. Mommy, I'm hungry. Just a minute, sweetie. I'll get you a snack after the man leaves. Okay. Who's that child? That's my child. Why? When we met at the theater, there was no child. She just wasn't there at that moment. She was in another part of the theater. You left her alone? Of course not. My husband was looking after her.
Husband? Child? You never said anything.
I didn't need to. You assumed I wasn't married and didn't have kids without even asking. So that's how it is. Who's the child's father? I told you, she's my child. That's strange. The kid looks about 3 years old. That's right. So, she was in your belly when we split up. She wasn't in my belly when we split up. She was conceived after. Is that really true? What are you doubting? Could it really be my child?
Sorry, but this child was conceived right after we split.
So, you're saying the child was in your belly when we split? Why would you think that? It's completely different. This is my current husband's child. After hearing about our breakup, he, who had always had feelings for me, shared his feelings. At first, I refused, but knowing him well and seeing his sincerity and kindness, I thought he could be the one. So, we started dating thinking we might get married. So, you're saying you married your husband while carrying my child and then passed it off as his? Don't lump me in with you. This child is legitimately my husband's. If you keep saying such things, I'll sue you for defamation.
How can that be? You and I couldn't conceive no matter how much we tried. And yet, as soon as we split, you got pregnant? That's too good to be true.
Well, it happened. Besides, you're infertile while my husband is healthy, so it's only natural.
No, it's a lie. That child is mine. My child was here all along, and look how cute they are. I'm telling you, you're wrong.
Fine, you don't have to lie. The whole I'm married thing is a lie, right? You've been raising my child. You're wrong. This child is mine and my husband's. You have nothing to do with this. Stop it. You're scaring the child. Come on, let's just leave it. I'll accept everything and live with you and the child. I can't believe you. What is this all about? You can't possibly be married. You loved me, remember? That's a lot of confidence, but any love I had for you faded a long time ago. It faded gradually as you kept saying terrible things to me and disappeared completely when you brought your mistress. I was probably terrible, yes. But it was all because I wanted children. Now that I know there's a child, let's forgive everything. I'll forgive you too. What are you talking about forgiving? There's nothing for you to forgive. Just take these flowers and leave.
No. Let's go together. We can even live here starting today. I'll be the dad from now.
Just then, my husband came home and stood behind John. Who's going to be the dad? I'm the father of this child. What?
Welcome back. You're early. Daddy, welcome home. I'm home, Mary.
Who are you? I'm Sally's husband. What? Didn't I tell you? I remarried right after our divorce. You were having an affair? Why would you think that? So, who is this guy? Well, I am Sally's ex-husband. What's going on? He's my former husband. Ah, the one who left with his mistress. Right. And now he's divorced. Eh? Why? Because his wife cheated and both kids turned out to be her lovers. And now he wants to date me again. And what about the bouquet of roses? Well, even though I said I was married and Mary was my husband's child, John kept insisting that it was impossible for me to have a child so soon after our divorce, so he claimed the child was his. But you're infertile, right? I think you're holding the test results? Oh, yes. And it clearly states you're infertile. How could you have a child then? That's impossible, isn't it? Those tests aren't always absolute. Maybe they're wrong. Or maybe you're the infertile one, not me. What are you talking about? My husband, unlike you, willingly took an infertility test because he knew how much you had hurt me. Thanks to that, we both found out we weren't infertile and were able to become parents. Please don't say such ridiculous things. You must be being deceived. Just because you deceive people, don't drag my husband into it. You'd be happier with me. I was unhappy because I was with you. I will never get back together with you. No woman wants to reunite with a man who's already failed her. So, please leave. Then what am I supposed to do? Find someone else. Someone who isn't me. John kept contacting me. First questioning whether Mary was his child, but gradually becoming more assertive, eventually demanding, "Give me back my child." Why are you trying to steal my child? If you really want a child that much, why don't you just live with me? Fed up with his relentless claims, I suggested a DNA test between Mary and John. But John vehemently refused. There's no need for that. It's a fact that she's my child. She looks just like me. Where does she resemble you? She looks nothing like you. You're blind. We already had a DNA test when she was born to prove she's my husband's child. Why would you do that? You thought she might not be your child, didn't you? That's why you did it. No. I wanted to make sure we had proof of parentage in case something like this happened. It was confirmed with 99.9% certainty that she's my husband's child. I can't believe that. What will it take for you to believe? Think about it calmly. It's impossible for a child to be conceived so soon after a divorce. If she was conceived right after our divorce, she must be my child. But there was a gap, you know. She was conceived after I married. You can say anything you want. Fine, if nothing I say will change your mind, then I'm done. If you're not going to listen, I'm cutting off all contact with you. Don't ever reach out to me again. No way. Give me back my child. After that, I blocked John's calls and decided to call the police if he showed up at my house. I thought surely he would give up after this. However, John took an unthinkable action. As working parents, we placed Mary in daycare, but he pretended to be her father and came to pick her up. I received a call from the daycare saying an unknown person had come to collect her. I asked them not to hand her over and rushed to pick her up myself. When I arrived, there was John, causing a scene, demanding the teachers to hand over the child. What are you doing? I came to pick my child up. I'm telling you, she's not your child. No matter what you say, Mary is my child. If you don't stop, I'll call the police. Say what you want. I'm just telling the truth. John, you're being unreasonable. You know Mary isn't your child, right? If you want a child so badly, why not adopt? Find a woman to marry. Become a parent to a child who doesn't have one. Isn't that what you told me? I want my own genetic child. Other kids aren't mine. But Mary isn't your child either. Stop it. You're causing trouble at the daycare, bothering the teachers. If you really cared as a parent, think about what you're doing. You're just making Mary suffer. I'm not wrong. I'm right. There's no way the child you bore isn't mine. How can you think that? Because she's my child. John kept insisting she was his child, refusing to budge. I explained everything to the daycare teachers, but this was no small matter. After discussing it with my husband, we decided to report it to the police. Thankfully, a restraining order was issued. For a while, I was worried he might still show up, but it seems John finally gave up, and we could regain our normal life. However, I heard John had to be monitored by his in-laws because of his actions. He still believes he's not in the wrong and that I took his child away. So self-centered. I wondered how John was doing. Out of curiosity, I contacted his in-laws. It turns out things have gotten worse for him. He's obsessed with the child and can't focus on work. It led to many mistakes. He was even sidelined at work. Despite the restraining order, John still occasionally went to the daycare, secretly watching Mary. One of John's colleagues who also sent their child to the same daycare reported to their boss, saying, "That guy is trouble." Concerned about potential problems at the company, the management decided to transfer him to a distant location, essentially demoting him. Despite being sent far away, he still sends letters claiming Mary is my child. I just ignore them. After 6 months, when the restraining order expired, John reappeared. Surprisingly traveling from afar. Driven by not being able to see her, he eventually kidnapped Mary, taking her around different places. Shocked that my child didn't return home, I called the police, and it turned out John was the culprit. Now he's in jail, crying alone. I can only hope those are tears of regret. As for me, I've discovered I'm pregnant with our second child. My husband's, of course.
We're looking forward to the birth, living happily.